I'm honored to be with my mom and dad today, and of course they're the parents of our family of 13 sons and one daughter. I'm the oldest. Today we're going to answer a few questions. We're going to talk about what it was like at the very beginning all the way up to the present day, being the patriarch and matriarch of the family. There were actually 20 pregnancies total, but there were a few miscarriages along the way. And so we might touch on that just a little bit, but we've been so blessed. There have been a lot of questions over the years, a lot of moms writing in, asking, like, hey, I have 2 kids. How in the world do you do 14? And so we're gonna answer that and a few other questions. At the very end, I'm gonna come back and I have a question for mom and dad. I didn't even tell them I was gonna ask this, but I'm curious what they think the most difficult or challenging era was when we were growing up. And I don't know if you have different answers or if they'll be the same. So the first question I have that I came up with, did you guys always want a large family, like from the very beginning? Mm-hmm. Can you give any thoughts on that?
Yeah, I would say that we did. I came from a family of 10, and my mom and dad made it so much fun that I think Rick could see that how much fun it was. We were always doing things together, and you could always get a baseball game going or anything. And even though we were mostly girls, we just had so much fun together. And it just seemed kind of lonesome. A lot of my friends who only had one sibling who might be 5 or 10 years older, and they didn't seem like they got the advantage of really feeling like a family like we did. And so that's kind of what we wanted.
And what about you, Dad? Of course, you were some of you might know that Dad's the oldest of 5. Yeah. What was it like for you? Like, did you always think, oh yeah, that I'd love to have a big family like the Stock family? Or what were your thoughts on that?
Well, 5 kids in my era, born in '56, didn't seem that unusual in our pocket, in our neighborhood, and in our school. There were a lot of big families. So that didn't seem striking. But I did, my main thought is I wanted us to just welcome babies as they would come naturally, mm-hmm. and not mess with it, just see whatever came, And so we just thought of it as one at a time. You were the one at the time when we only had one. And so I kind of feel that I was just open to life, and I kind of committed myself to, if we're going to do this family and marriage and family thing, let's do it with all of our hearts,
Yeah.
And that wasn't a quantitative thought, but it was more that I'm not going to stop any life, because it's hard enough to get pregnant and bring it to term even one time and have a live birth. Mm-hmm. So.
Yeah, I was kind of musing about that myself, because we've gotten so many questions over the years where they might just kind of assume that, we have as if there's like a goal, you're trying to have as many children as possible, or as if you're like in this other group of people where all you know is big families or something. And we actually barely know any big families. It just happens to, and you don't know, even if you were open to a big family, you didn't know how many you could have. Would you say it's more of in a way, like a mentality rather than, of course you didn't go into it saying, okay, like here we go, let's see how many we can have, but more that you were just, it was more of a lifestyle, like over and over again, just open to, your posture was that you were excited each time you'd have a chance to bring life into the world.
Well, and to me, these days people kind of take it for granted that somehow, I don't want to have a baby now, I'll just get rid of this one, I'll just have the baby later. It's like, it's not the same baby. It's miraculous that you ever get pregnant. Any life, how on earth babies are made inside you without you doing all the detailing. It's amazing. Mm-hmm. And it's, each time, I know it sounds crazy, I guess it looks crazy, but to me, each time we found we were pregnant, we actually had another baby come. It's like just amazing. And good news, babies are so precious. And I have to say, all you guys were so excited. It was like the best news you each time would get, like, hey, another baby's coming. And it was always good news to us. And now it carries on, this next generation. I had one of my grandbabies, my oldest one, come over just a little bit ago. Yeah. And we didn't tell everybody who was at home that the baby was here, but suddenly there were like 6 or 8 people all around that little baby watching everything she does. It's adorable. And she's the most popular thing around here. So it's been a good environment for kids, I think.
Some of these questions I ask just for the benefit of the audience, but a lot of them I'm actually curious about, because we don't usually just sit here or stand here and talk about such basic things that we're so used to in our family. But did you have any sense that the family would be this big? Because it was so gradual. It was just, of course I can say that I saw it one at a time, and I never knew if there was going to be another one. Right. Yeah. Did you think going into it, like, I bet God willing, we'll probably have at least 5, or did you really have no idea to saying, hey, let's see if we're able to have one?
I thought I thought of it as living in the present, and I honestly didn't think in terms of a number. just living the life like Jesus said, each day has enough challenges to give to you. And of course, anybody entering into the adventure of parenting knows that right away. Each minute does. So I just honestly didn't think of numbers. It was just sort of like just rejoicing another day, another day. Each day was like a little gift, an unwritten page in a book. And so it just gradually, really was just a series of forks in the road. Each time, let's keep welcoming life. There's no health reason. There's nothing. We don't want to do anything that would abort or even abortifacient. A lot of people don't know birth controls, but birth control pills can contain abortifacients. And so we just decided to just welcome it. And you stayed very healthy. She made a point of staying healthy, exercising, having a great attitude. And it would just always be one more. And we were celebrating the whole way.
And I know I just love that kind of attitude when I see it. Of course, I saw it growing up with you too, how much you were so eager to welcome life.
Yeah.
And it was never to me about, like I've seen that in other people too, who maybe never were able to have kids or just have 2 kids or 5 kids or whatever it is. It's not a number. It's more like a posture is the way I've always seen it, where you can just tell when somebody is open to life and eager about life, as opposed to trying to kind of control it all or being too self-sufficient. And I know God calls everybody differently, but I think that's just something that's universally a healthy attitude to have,
Well, and just to trust God. I never would have thought, boy, would it be neat if I had a whole bunch of boys. I didn't think it was possible.
Yeah.
My family, 8 girls, 2 boys. Boys were hard to come by. And the idea, watching that movie, 7 Brides for 7 Brothers, I remember loving that movie when I first saw it, maybe as a teenager. Yeah. But I thought, oh, it's so unrealistic. No one has 7 boys in a row. That's just impossible. I mean, to get 1 boy is amazing. And I really felt that way. And so each time another boy, it's like, I felt like, whoa, could I be blessed again? And I loved it. I never would have thought it could even happen or that would even happen. Here it did. And it was, my mom had the 10 of us and, didn't have a first boy until the 7th child. And it was like, 7th, I've got it right. Yeah. And, to me, the idea that our first 10 were all boys, I wasn't there, but of course, on Easter when Nathan was born and he was number 10, my whole family was gathered. In fact, you guys were all over at my mom and dad's when we went to pretty hard labor. And the party was still going on when Nathan was born. And everyone tells me how everybody's just laughing, like 10 boys in a row. This is crazy. 10. Wow, they're all boys, And I think they were kind of delighting that it would happen to me. Somehow they thought of me as like the more feminine of the crew. Now, I would think I'm a bit of a tomboy, but I think in my family, maybe, I don't know. But I think they kind of delighted in the torture they thought I was having. I loved it. To me, it's like, it was fun,
Job.
Oh, yeah, really amazing to see one after another. And we of course, never knew if there would be a girl.
Yeah.
And it was all new to us. It was just one at a time, like whoa, wow, a boy, 2 boys in a row. Wait, 4 or 5, and of course you probably get a little used to it. Like, except just about the time you're getting somewhat used to saying, "Hey, this is reality." Okay, somehow we have 5 boys, somehow we have 6. So it's somewhat gradual, but looking back, it's pretty amazing now.
Well, each time, we didn't know, it's 50-50, that boy or girl, and so I'd crochet a pink blanket, I'd crochet a blue one, and be ready to whatever, and then I'd give away the pink one, and I'd give away a pink one. So I gave away a lot of pink blankets. It was exciting. It was always good. And heck, someone else had a baby girl. A lot of my family had girls. And so the blankets didn't get wasted, Yeah,
it was, the gender reveal would be on the day of the birth. So there was a lot of excitement. People would, as the years went on and baby number 5, 6, 7, 8, people would sort of crowd in at the hospital, kind of congregate out there in the hallway and kind of peer in and see if they could get the latest report. But And what's interesting is it never seemed, even then, remember, you already have the number you have. Let's say you have 5. All it is 1 more baby. You're already used to everyday life with 5. Right. And really, what's 5 and a baby to carry around? I mean, so really it's just like, boiling the frog slowly. You don't notice it.
Yeah, that's right.
In a good way.
Yeah. As things went along with the family growing, can you look back now and see any big surprises? Like if somebody would have, when you were 20 years old, if somebody said, what would it be like to have 14 kids? Can you think of, or either, I guess it's a question for both of you, can you think of any surprises looking back? Like, I never would have guessed it was like such and such. Does anything come to mind?
Well, simply that you guys were boys. So many boys. I really did not think that was possible. I remember the night before our wedding, I had a dream, and well, there's actually two dreams, but the one dream was that I had 5 boys, and I think I shook. You know how you kind of almost wake up like you're falling off the bed or something, and it's like. But I thought, oh man, that's crazy, you know. And so I almost feel now like as if I woke up in the middle of something God was trying to tell me, you know. I mean, it's just they didn't tell me.
I wonder if it's kind of like I keep thinking of a comparison of a marathon, like maybe somebody who is used to only running half a mile or something, and they think that's difficult. And then if somebody said, like, actually, there's a group of people that runs 26 miles, and they can do it in a short amount of time, relatively short amount of time. But so I bet that's how people think of it when they think, oh, I had one child. Like how in the world I can even fathom 14. But if it is a little more of a marathon, you get better at it, you pace yourself. There's a lot of factors.
Oh, yeah, and it's so unfair for a new parent to think, gosh, I haven't had sleep for this long, and I hardly know how to do this. I'm not good at nursing. I'm not good at diapering. I can't tell what's sickness and what isn't sickness, how to deal with each thing. I don't even recognize it. And they can kind of panic and think, how on earth could I do 14? And you don't get 14 babies, at least we didn't. And by the time we had a second baby, I finally figured out the mystery of the first baby, you. And then when John came, it's like, oh, okay, I've seen this pattern before. Okay, yeah. And I was better at it. I got better at nursing, even though he was a brand new baby. I knew how to nurse by then. And that's a big difference. And then the third baby, the fourth baby, you get good at. You kind of, you would kind of break us in on everything. Like, you know, you were the first one learning how to be 2.5, 3, you know. And we kind of had to learn, okay, how do you deal with a temper tantrum? How do you deal with each of these things? And we learned it all on the job like every parent does. You could read all the books in the world, and it's not the same as when you actually have your own baby, and you're in love with that baby, and you care so much how he turns out, and yet you don't know what you're doing. And we all learn on the job. And you can't give someone else your muscle memory, your experience. You just can't. And every parent is a new parent, you know, and there's nothing wrong with that. That's just, it is. And that's why we help each other, you know. But it actually, if you say, oh, well, this is how hard it is for one, so 14 would do 14 times that, it really isn't. It isn't. You know, after we had a few of you guys, it's kind of like, oh, a new baby's easy to bring into the family. They just keep them next to you. You either put them on your front pack or you keep them in the pumpkin seat next to you, and you just, you know, he's your toy, your fun, while you do all the other work, you know, and you find, you get in your pattern of, okay, now it's time to nurse the baby. So the next 2 younger ones who miss their mommy and don't want to be pushed aside, you just say, hey, guys, it's time to nurse the baby. You want to come sit by me? We could read a book, or we could watch a cartoon together. You want to come? And you guys wouldn't always take me up on it because you knew I would do it. But most of the time, hey, good, a time to snuggle and hold still. And so, you know, there's just so many secret things you learn just on the job. And I don't know that there's any way to know otherwise.
Also, you're forced to be very, to strip your life down in a good way to just be focused on people. Like, I think if I hadn't been married or had kids, I would have wanted to do something to help, to kind of some kind of ministry where I was throwing a big part of my day into people and stripping down my needs to the most bare necessities, and just sort of have a good feeling at the end of the day that I really am I'm impacting the lives of others. So I would have done something. You often say you would have gone into maybe some kind of ministry type or some kind of outreach with children, or and so it forces you to be, in a way, get down to the essentials, because in a day you're going to make sure each one feels tremendously loved, each one is physically taken care of, or is emotionally secure, gets entertainment, gets some face time. So you just throw out a whole bunch of other things you don't need. And it actually, in a way, you travel light. It's sort of like these people who backpack. They just travel light, but yet the kids actually get more of your attention because you're kind of in the kid business totally.
It's probably kind of like a business, I would assume, you know, like if you're scaling a business, they always talk about like the very beginning is the most difficult, maybe when you're making the very first version of a product. And that might take you 10 times as long as the second one, and 1/100th of as long as it take for the third one. You kind of get better at it, scaling things up and knowing everything you need, all the gear you need. And of course, you have a lot of things like car seats and things like that you kept over the years.
And you know how to use them, and you know what's good about this kind of stroller or that kind of stroller. And you know, after so many babies that they wear out, you get a new stroller that worked better for what your real life experience was. You know, so it all gets a lot easier. So it's really, we're getting way too much credit for, wow,
Yeah.
you could handle, 14 2-year-olds at the same time. It's like, oh, that
Yeah.
drive about anybody nuts,
Yeah.
And, but it's different too. They're your own kids.
Right.
And so you've been training them. And when they get to 2, and then they have the normal trouble that every little 2-year-old gets, where they didn't like the word no. They prefer you always to say yes, like you always did when they were younger. And they have to learn no and how to share and all these, and that their emotions aren't the boss. But to them, they're very much the boss. And you kind of break the news to them. But with you, we're like, oh no, what have we done wrong with this child? And it's like every child does that. It's just, it's tough for them to accept that their emotions don't matter that much. Like you let them know, like, oh honey, I know you really want that toy. I know you really want that right now. I know you can't have it, but I know you really want it. And you acknowledge your feelings, but you don't give in to them. They don't, they're not the boss. Now sometimes it is time to say, okay, yeah, we can get that toy now. But you had to break the news to them because it's not reality, and they're going to face up to reality later in life. I'd rather them face it with me, hug them and loving them and tell them, I know you're so disappointed. I don't blame you. I'm disappointed too, darn it. But this is what it is. And then teach them how to accept and how to go on, that life doesn't have to end when you don't get your way.
Well, one thing I was going to ask about just briefly, and I didn't, in a way I kind of hesitate even bringing it up, but since it is unusual that you had a total of 20 pregnancies, of course, 6 of those were miscarriages. So of course we're going to get to meet those babies. Some are, I don't know what form they'll be in heaven, but it'll be, we don't know if they're boys or girls, but well, I guess we probably do know.
We know the first one was a boy.
19 boys and 1 girl.
Yeah, I know, poor Mary Elizabeth.
But I was just curious, and I don't know if this is something anybody else is curious about, but was it ever, like I know you experienced the first one when I guess I was 6 or 7 between Jude and Luke, and that really impacted me. Of course, I'm sure nothing like it impacted you guys.
To me, I was really shocked that I would lose the baby. It sounds so arrogant, but you act as though you own the baby. God gave you the baby, it's yours. And I couldn't believe it because I wanted the baby. I knew, I had 4 little boys, and I knew we had another baby coming, and here it did end up being a little boy. And it's like we were all rejoicing. We knew exactly what we lost. And it was that next baby to be about 1.5 years apart, like our routine. And it really hurt just to, because I already had dreams. We already had names picked out, everything, And of course, I was only 3 months along. But to lose him really shocked me. I didn't think it was possible. I thought, I don't know, what if I thought that that's how abortions happen? People didn't want the baby, so the baby came out. Just naive, But
you never had to face it before because
I didn't think, my mom didn't miscarry. She had 10 kids and no miscarriages, so I thought they were extremely rare and usually probably something you did, And there wasn't anything I could point to that I did. The doctor could find nothing. But, and it's held true that they say 20% of pregnancies are miscarried. And that's what it has been for us, But it was very heartbreaking. I felt like I'd go crazy, especially when we had a little body and we did a little funeral ceremony at my grandma's graveside. And I felt crazy that night. Kind of like, did we just bury him? I had him wrapped in plastic. What was I thinking? I was a little nuts there. But then God helped. But no, it didn't make me scared of getting pregnant again. It just kind of made me realize I should be grateful. I think sometime point in there, I felt like I could go toward God or away from God. It was hurting so bad. It was so emotionally devastating to lose him. And I think in a way, because I already had you guys, I knew exactly what I lost. A lot of people say, oh, but your first one, that's even worse. Maybe it is, I don't know, but I knew what I lost. That was that little 5th boy that was going to be running around, and I just assumed he was mine. And then I realized, a lot of ladies never, ever get pregnant. Maybe they never married, or if they wanted children and they're married and everything looks just right, they never get pregnant, or they get pregnant, they lose every baby. I mean, it's not, we don't really own each other, I mean, I don't know if tomorrow we'll all be here. We don't know, we don't have that kind of control of life. It might be the average, you get this long of life average. But look at all these people who died in the Civil War, who died for this, that, and the other thing. All the diseases that took out little kids back when. We can't just take that for granted. Life is a miracle. And it helped me so much to go toward God, toward Jesus, and then to realize, to say thank you that I ever was pregnant with Peter Michael, and that I will get to see him again. And I could have never gotten pregnant, and I want to grieve so much, but then I wouldn't have him in heaven. And we weren't trying to just have more souls or something to save. It's nothing crazy like that, but just simply God gave us his present. I thought he gave it to us. I thought it was ours. And I kind of held it to me like it was mine. And then I realized, well, no, I really don't own any of you guys. You probably think you own you. And with my attitude, I owned you for the rest of your life, and that's not right either. So I kind of needed some correcting there. But it seemed like our 5th pregnancy, then our 10th, and then the 15th, and then the 3 after David. So, but I had gotten the farthest with that, and also as my first experience. But I wouldn't say the miscarriages themselves were that painful. But the emotions were tough. So disappointing,
I'm sure how was that for you, Dad? Was it kind of similar? Did you relate to a lot of as far as how you reacted to it? I'm sure it's a whole different experience.
Yeah, it was a real punch in the stomach, and you can't really just hit a switch and just say, now I'll, you can't just rationalize, okay, well, now I'm fine with that, and there's another baby in heaven. I just had to, but it did, just to give it to God and really know that my hands are empty. You create life, and as it says all through God's word, that it's yours to take and yours to create and give to us as a steward, caretaker. That perspective really helped. That, oh wow, if you're kind of thinking in that terms, thinking from the idea that we're just being stewards and caretakers. The baby already these babies made it across the finish line early. And then that really helped to kind of give it that zoomed out view of God and of the importance of just heaven and life and just eternal life, and just everything came alive more for me then. Like, oh, okay, God just whisked those to the head of the line.
I don't think about it that often, but it's pretty exciting to think that we're going to meet them, and they'll just kind of join us and join our family in heaven, like they were never not there.
I know. I kind of think of it like on It's a Wonderful Life, when the angel Joseph is watching, or not Joseph, Clarence, is watching George grow up, and he gets to see how George became the person he was. And I think he felt like he was there at all these significant times in his life. And I would imagine, I don't know, of course I've not been to heaven, but that the cloud of witnesses, that our kids are part of that, and they're seeing, the time you got your first tooth, and the time this happened, that happened, and they'll be, I think it's going to feel very natural that you guys will just say, oh yeah, hi bro, and you guys will be having dumb jokes with them. They'll already know all the inside jokes because they saw it.
Good point.
They probably can improve on them.
Well, I have one more question, and then we'll get to the final question, which we promised you, which is what Mom and Dad will say is our most difficult time they remember of us growing up. But first, I wanted to ask, can you quickly just go through a few advantages of having a big family that you've experienced? Because of course with us, it's not theory. It's not just like, oh, wouldn't that be interesting? Like, we've actually seen the difficult things, but also experienced the blessings. I guess I'll start with Mom. Can you think of any?
Yeah, I can think of a lot for us. For one, once we got outnumbered with Mark, I felt like a family. It wasn't just Rick was holding a baby, I was holding a baby, and we could kind of do whatever and not pay attention to you guys. We were outnumbered, and you guys, of course, you were getting old enough to want to do something, to go to a park. And it was worth going to a park because we were taking 3 little people there and then 4 little people. And I felt like we became more of a family because we kind of owned being a family. We no longer just say that we were a couple. We're dabbling in family. We're knee deep in it. And you get better at it. You really do. Every child you have, it's like you're juggling, and suddenly someone gives you another ball, and it's kind of hard, and then you can juggle that, they give you another ball, and somehow you can do it. I honestly had a lot harder time just taking care of our little 2-bedroom apartment when we first got married, keeping up with our laundry, dishes, cooking, clean, grocery shopping. I didn't know laundry from head to tails. I mean, it was so hard. It's easier in the toughest times we had with all 16 of us and keep up the laundry and dish and stuff. That was easier because I got better at it. I got more skilled. Now, actually, one of the hard things is now you guys double-crossed me and stopped being babies. You turned to men. And suddenly I'm this highly trained mom just rearing to go. And it's like, what am I supposed to do? So it's like, but, God's given me other things to do.
You better get ready for the grandkids. The pace is just increasing very quickly. And
it's hard to believe.
There's things down the pipeline that it looks like it's going to go quickly.
Sure.
So,
Oh, we won't complain about that.
yeah.
So.
What about you, Dad? Can you think of any other advantages to having a big family?
Well, I think it really helps you keep your mind off of yourself in the right healthy way, because we personally don't each have a huge number of needs. You can only eat so much. Your stomach is about the size of your fist, and you can only do so many things, that you only need so many things, and it kind of helps you live, kind of invest more into other people. And it just made me feel good about all the times Jesus would say about planting and coming up with 100-fold. And I like things that multiply. I like things that kind of you can look back. I like the idea of not protecting yourself so much, because you end up getting all this harvest if you can just risk the human fear of giving. I want to hold on to my control. But really, like juggling, you said, if by the time we were juggling 6 balls, every time a new one would be introduced, it's almost like somebody else would take away one of them, because you guys were old enough. Yeah. So you would be carrying kids around or changing diapers. And I realized there was a time when you could get no more pressured. In fact, even just being old enough to give smiles and emotional support, and or even, I'll take care of that. Now, the guys, you guys who come over here and visit, you'll be taking turns doing the dishes. It's kind of like a family house for those who have left, and for those who are here. And so in a way, we have a bigger team, and you guys, and we built a house together. So I'd say that to reassure anyone, there's like a tipping point with anything, that it'll start tipping back, then you get to harvest.
Look at what you guys have now. I mean, you have the harvest coming back to you, all these new family members coming in now. It's not just one.
I've got daughters.
Yeah, you have all these daughters now. Like, that's multiplying. Look, their daughters are very quickly catching up.
I know.
And the grandkids and all that.
And it's so much fun. It's, again, I wasn't trying to have men. I was trying to have babies. And you guys double-crossed me. But it's not such a bad thing to have men who love you and who you love in your life. It's fun. I mean, you and I walk so often, get a good half-hour walk and just chatting about everything. And when you're talking about some advantages of being a big family, in the neighborhood you guys all grew up in, there were, several families, just 1, 2, 3 boys, and they could come over and with you guys suddenly have a real baseball game going. And it just like that, it could get going and you get really into doing something. And there's an advantage because you've got the home turf for one, but you've also got a bunch of people who are just raring to go, got all this energy and want to play. And so you could always get something going. You could say, hey, you want to go get an ice cream cone, and everybody pile into the car. There was always like an excitement. And I know once we had a party, the party was over, about everybody had left, but there was 1 or 2, I guess one lady who was waiting around, and then I forgot how it got brought up. She goes, I really should be going. I said, well, yeah, that's fine. She goes, I just want to wait till the party was over. And I said, oh, well, these 16 people are us. We live here. And she thought the party was still going, but I mean, there's a party going on.
Still be here.
So, but it is a little bit like a party. I mean, we've always got some dumb joke going on, something fun, teasing, something special in someone's life going on that we're all talking about and trying to help them. We remodeled a house here for this one and remodeled a house there for that one. And just pulling together to make their wedding the most special, to make their bridal shower and now their baby showers, And there's always something going on. And so you don't have much boring time. And you think about all the time we could be spending watching a lot more television. I don't know what else we would do with all of our time. I don't think I've missed that much. I think I personally think my life in reality is a lot more fun than what I often see on television. And I feel like it's deeply fun, deeply satisfying, just kind of like I feel right, like I'm in the right place at the right time, and I'm doing something that really helps.
And you get the right, it's like an ongoing movie. You get the right balance of drama, suspense, comedy, inspiration. So,
well, even in the old neighborhood, I remember when I was very small, of course, it was just like a regular, like, turn of the century house. Houses fairly close together. A lot of kids in that neighborhood for some reason, and a lot of them from like broken homes and kind of rough situations. But it was interesting how it seemed like our yard, because there were so many of us, and it was such a healthy family that you two created, that it was just like a magnet where you'd have like these new kids always coming in where we didn't know, I don't even know where half of them came from, but just like maybe from blocks away, and somehow how they'd find out like, hey, they must have spread
Yeah.
Well,
around the neighborhood that, hey, there's always 10 or 15 people there playing a game or playing kickball or something.
well, it made you guys kind of popular, but I think a lot of it is I had the advantage of being at home. You know, Rick worked his tail off providing, and I did what I could doing the bookkeeping for the business, but I could do it from home and I could do it around the kids. But I was at home, and so many of those moms were working, or and the dads maybe in jail, or just never been a dad. Well, long enough to be a dad, but you know what I mean.
Sure.
Just you know, just real sad situations, and so there wasn't an adult there helping keep things
Yeah.
sweet and innocent,
Sure.
because there'd be times some of the guys would come over who were kind of rough and bullying you guys, and or sometimes one of you guys being a bit of a bully, and nobody would have noticed except I was always watching you guys, and I think
Yeah.
that helped a lot.
Yeah, sure.
For one, it kept things friendly, it kept things, you know, I could kind of get out there and fix whatever the problem was,
Right.
you know, and whoever, it could have been on either side,
Right.
the wrong, you guys
yeah,
weren't
plenty of
innocent.
times too.
No.
Okay, well, we've reached the final question, and I wanted to ask each of you, I guess I'll do ladies first. Can you think of a time during the child years of us growing up that was the most challenging? Like, was it the first baby, or was it when you had the 14th, or was it somewhere in between? Or can you think?
For me, I'd say two different times. The hardest that I would normally say would be when you were, of course, the oldest, like you always have been, and we had 5. And I was still a very new mom. And you were just starting kindergarten, and we were homeschooling. We didn't know if you were ready for school, so we tried homeschooling. We ended up loving it and sticking with it. But I had to learn school at the same time as having, you know, a 4-year-old, a 3-year-old, you know, a
Yeah.
baby, nursing, pregnant, you know, just,
Sure.
you know, a very broken house, a very, very busy husband, still going to school, trying to get on his feet provide, you know, always $1 short and a day late, or however that.
$1 short.
Yeah, that one. You know, it was busy, but mostly it's because I was a new mom,
Yeah,
and
sure.
I was learning on the job, and you kept breaking me into the next stage, and I never had taught school before, and suddenly
Yeah.
I'm teaching you, and it's a big responsibility, and I was scared, and I was
Sure.
scared that I would mess you guys up or forget something. That, and then another time would have been, I'd say about the time between our 9th and our 10th, when money had gotten better and then got real tight again, and we
We had the renters also.
Right,
Yeah.
we had to rent out half the house. And for a while, we got to have the whole house ourselves, and that helped so much.
Yeah.
But we were back in half the house, and it just was so tight. And
Yeah.
we had fixed up the basement. Daddy had helped remodel that, but it just was so tight. It was so hot. It was such a hot summer. And it just was, you know, financially so terribly scary. And then our renters were really, really difficult. And
You
all
had police
sorts of
cars,
police.
you had
Oh.
cops there.
I know, and cussing, and just,
Yeah.
it was horrible. And that was a really hard time. And, you know, it took maybe a couple of years for all that to calm down, but I remember shaking for a while. And it wasn't because of you guys.
Yeah.
It was just a sheer
A
busyness.
combination of things.
Well, and trying to find a way to stretch a dollar, and to find a way to never lower the standard of the love and care you guys all had. But then, how are we going to make ends meet? How? And God, He always was there. But it was, you know, I got scared,
Yeah.
you know. But God was always there. And somehow, I don't think a lot of the places that gave us work might have maybe not given us the work
Yeah.
if it wasn't because we had a big family. So, you know, you never know. God has a way of providing. He has a way of doing things. And I shouldn't have been so concerned, but I was. And so, because it was just so busy, and
Yeah.
I'd gotten good at taking care of you guys, but the business was busy. All that was kind of hard, you know.
And I was actually messaging with somebody, a friend of the family, who is the oldest in a very large family. And earlier I was talking to him briefly, but I was saying how we never felt poor growing up, even though money was tight, because you two always had everything so spick and span. And even though it was an older house, we never could afford new furniture, or like even, I think my first pair of shoes had like, was it 50 cents or a
No,
quarter?
25 cents on the bottom of your shoe. I didn't even know it till we got your picture taken there. I see the bottom of your feet.
Yeah, like you used you from the Goodwill or
Yeah.
Salvation Army.
Yeah.
And somebody put a marker on there.
And my
Yeah, and you'd
mom,
have
I
us
didn't
in
even have a
suspended.
quarter to pay for. My mom bought those for you.
Oh,
you
yeah.
know, and I was just,
But they were good
I
shoes.
felt bad. Yeah, they had a lot of wear in them. They're little new
Yeah.
baby shoes. They were adorable. But,
Yeah.
you know,
I think it's a testament to you guys that we didn't feel. We always knew that we were maybe we wouldn't get as many gifts as the only child who lived down the neighborhood or some other friend who lived in a wealthy neighborhood or something. But we all got to share we actually, it turned out that we were more wealthy because maybe we'd each get a video game if we could afford it for our birthday or something. And then once that multiplied, we would all figure out that, hey, we could share this. And then it feels like each of us has 10 games or whatever.
It's more fun to play against someone and, having a Monopoly board. What fun is that by yourself? But, every time you would get a board game and someone else would and someone else, then we could, you had all these games to go to. So we've got a good collection of toys and games. And David, by the time he was growing up, he had about every game you could think of, and they've been played and a lot of people to play against and with.
Yeah.
So, but money was tight, but you had what mattered a lot more to little kids is attention from your parents.
Yeah.
And kids need attention. They don't raise themselves. They need people. And that's us.
And what about you, Dad? Can you think of, would you agree with it's probably different, with, of course, you being the father, but the provider and everything, but do you think it was roughly those time periods, or do you have any different thoughts on that?
I would say like maybe 2 periods. One was more in the early days, maybe just after 4 or 5, when it just became physically difficult. I was just starting the business, and like everybody was still sort of like a baby, and not thinking you were the oldest. And it did start. The rate of return started coming back when we had 5, because you by that time might have been 6 or 7. But anyway, but later, the same time Mom mentions, when we were tight on money. We had to split the house. But we've been working very hard with Mom. We wanted to make her at home, so she was home the whole time, but homeschooling and taking care of the bookkeeping for the business. But we had just gotten to 9 or 10. It was just that time when we didn't have a driver yet. We still had one car. They were always pre-owned cars. In fact, I've always had pre-owned cars. But just we finally didn't. It was like that time when you have 10 children and not the oldest isn't able to drive. And I remember feeling more the stress then was more like, am I doing justice? I see all these needs. This one has a 14-year-old need. This one has a baby's need. I have to remember how to give love to each. And then I just remember just that, and people at that time were kind of saying, hey, maybe 10's a nice number. Maybe we shouldn't have any more. Maybe certain people, just a couple, but just people. And I felt, no, that's not the answer. Let's just keep welcoming children. And we would have missed out on the first girl and the 3 wonderful sons after that had we listened. But and I feel that flipped pretty quickly, because as soon as you guys started getting your driver's license, you would like love to run to the hardware store. You would or go pump gas, get gas into the car. Suddenly it flipped so much. I had all these men around me. I had all these help. Then we got into the softball league, and we played in over 20 years as a family team. So that became, suddenly it starts paying you back so rapidly. Plus you have more who want to hold the babies than the younger ones. And you're almost like semi-parents yourselves at that age. So really it flips. I just want to encourage people. It flips at different times. I think it flips when you have maybe you go from 2 to 3 children. And when because you suddenly aren't outnumbered. The oldest one can run and get a diaper to help the mommy, or can do this, or bring this please, or
and I just remembered what I was trying to remember earlier that I forgot the question, but I think it was a huge advantage that we learned how to work as a team because we were in a way forced to. So in a way we were, because I think the alternative would have been that we'd have to somehow learn that lesson later or always be kind of underdeveloped in that way as far as thinking in terms of other people or thinking in terms of a group. Because I remember when I got my driver's license, you guys were about as excited as I was because I could help. It was a perfect mix because I thought, man, this would be great. I would love to go grocery shopping or love to do things to help. An excuse to drive also. So it really helped us to think as a team, because if you would have just, if I was an only child and you just set me loose with my driver's license, I don't know if I would have ever come back, or I wouldn't have learned the team aspect,
And you were needed. And that's pretty cool when you're needed and wanted. And also, one thing to remember is, of course, the kids were the joy of it. You guys were the fun of it, is to see each one growing up and the different personalities, and then to see the personalities interact with each other. And of course, with that, you guys had to learn how to get along with a lot of different personalities. But honestly, I think it helped you be able to get along with a lot of personalities in real life, because real life, you aren't with just kids your age all the time. Kids, each age you're with a variety of people. You got to know how to get along with them all.
Well, this has been great, and we've been standing for a while. We might have to start sitting down soon for some of these, but it's been a great time. And I wanted to encourage you all to watch our other videos. We have at least one video released every week. Usually it's 2 or 3. So make sure you like and subscribe and watch these other videos if you like.